Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you on this morning. Today is Wednesday, March the 13th. I cannot believe it's March the 13th. I have been thinking about the fact that we are so far into March, so far into the year all week, but we are grateful we are here. We want to welcome you to Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC. Locked in. We are locked in for 2024. So we want to say good morning to you. We want to welcome you on behalf of Purpose Journey Counseling. My name is Dr. Natatu North, and I'm the owner and one of the therapists of Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC, which is located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So we want to welcome you again. We want to say thank you for joining us. Again, it's Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. It is 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are live. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, and the YouTube link for this broadcast is posted on Instagram. So whether you're catching us live at 7 a.m. or we're live on all these social media platforms, or you catch us later in the day, later in the week, later in the month, later in the year, we want to welcome you and still thank you for joining us. So whenever you're watching this, please take a moment to like the broadcast, like our pages, follow us on your preferred social media platform. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Purpose Journey Counseling. Even if you don't watch us on YouTube all the time, that's okay. Well, we ask that you please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please share this broadcast, and let's also interact and engage in the comments section. So I give these two numbers every time. Mental health is very, very important. That's my initial statement into why I do share these numbers. But the first is for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. If you don't have this number in your phone, store it. Could be used for you, could be used for someone else. The number is 1-800-273-8255. This number is 24/7. So please make sure you have this number stored and saved. And the second number is for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. That number is 988, just 988. Please make sure you have this number stored as well. Excuse me, you just never know when you may need it. You never know when someone else may need it. So please, please, please make sure you have these numbers stored in your phones. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, our March theme for Purpose Journey Counseling has been relationships. So we started off with part 2 of a podcast that, went into the theme of love, which was February's theme. And it's still, obviously, we were talking about marriage. So that covers March as well. Last week, we were talking about empathy with boundaries with others. And we are going to continue our March theme for what we call on Wednesdays, our Wellness Wednesday. So we have Wellness Wednesday. Our theme is relationships. So we're going to have just a few minutes talking about something along that theme of relationships. And our Wellness Wednesday for today is going to be one-sided relationships. One-sided relationships. I'm not going to go on a very, very long soapbox about this, but this is a very, 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 very important concept that we need to make sure that we discuss. If we're talking about relationships, we have to talk about the one-sided relationships. What are one-sided relationships? Have you ever been in a relationship where it feels draining, like it's draining your existence to be in a relationship? Now, let's be clear. When we're talking about these relationships, I'm not just talking about significant others. So when we say being in a relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be an associate or an acquaintance. But just, and when I say in relationship, I'm not just talking about significant others. I'm talking about in general. But have you ever been in a relationship with someone where it was draining, or your output is always more than your input, or there's a ton of output but not a lot of input? You find yourself always giving, always being the giver, but never being on the receiving end. When you have conversations, the conversation tends to be surrounded by the other person, or I won't say surrounded, I say preoccupied by, meaning the other person has a lot to say about themselves, their situations, their concerns, but doesn't necessarily ask you a lot about yourself, doesn't necessarily openly express concern with you and what you have going on. When you all decide to go hang out, they always want to do what they want to do. But they're not necessarily asking you or not necessarily interested in what you want to do. If they need something, you freely and openly give it to them. But when you need something, there's a ton of excuses. I'll even go one further. When you see a need for them, you actually just offer. They don't even have to ask you for your support or for whatever it is that they're standing in need of. But when you need something, if you even wanted to consider receiving it from them, you'd have to ask them because they're not aware. You're not a priority. They're not paying attention to what you need. Now, these are just some examples, but these would all classify as one-sided relationships. There's a lack of reciprocity. There's a lack of common love, common respect, common concern. And the bottom line is that a lot of relationships look like that. You can be relied upon. You're dependable, but they're not. You're always checking on them. They're never checking on you. You're always willing to lend a helping hand towards them, but they're never extending a hand towards you. Now, of course, one can consider, well, there's definitely going to be situations where there may not be a lot of reciprocity. There are going to be situations and seasons where someone may need you more than you need them. And again, the key word there was season, where that may happen. And that is completely understandable. But we have to evaluate our relationships and looking at, are they one-sided? Is there some balance in these relationships? Or are you pouring more than being poured back into you? Or are you pouring and nothing's ever being poured back into you? When someone's in a crisis, can they rely on you? But when you're in a crisis, you can't rely on them. So, Dr. Natatu, okay, you've expounded upon one-sided relationships. I get it. I'm even able to identify some one-sided relationships in my life, Dr. Natatu. I get it. What am I supposed to do about these one-sided relationships? Well, I'm a big person of communication. Having conversation addressing issues is important. But the critical thing I want to kind of put in there with that still is that sometimes if we even have to have certain conversations, that is telling us exactly the state or where that relationship needs to be placed. Sometimes we already know. Sometimes I don't even have to tell you, you know what? My relationship with you is draining me because I'm giving and giving, you're taking and taking. I'm always concerned about you. You're never concerned about me. I need help. You're not going to help me. You need help. You barely even have to ask me because I'm already offering. Sometimes you don't even have to have those conversations because you already know that might be the nature of the person. Now, we are called to love. We are called to care for each other. Now, that does not mean that I have to continue to operate in the manner in which I'm operating. I also have to protect myself. And the goal of life, even with loving your neighbor, is not to just love your neighbor so much that you're just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And next thing you know, especially when you're in a relationship of some sort, and then it becomes a no. Like, why? I'm always open for you. You're never open for me. And like I said, let's be clear. There are going to be seasons where we may be in relationships with people who need us more than we need them. And that's okay. But seasons are seasons. Seasons are not lifetimes. Seasons are not forever. Seasons do come to have a starting point and they have an ending point. So it's important to be able to identify what these relationships are. And depending on, the seriousness or the significance, I should say, of the relationship, you might need to go ahead and address it. Sometimes you can address it. Sometimes you can say, you know what, this has been bothering me. So sometimes like I said, we have to evaluate. It might not be something worth evaluating because that's the way the person is. You can tell them, but it's not going to change. So you may not be able to talk to them about it, but you can change the way you move. And then implement some boundaries there. Go boundaries again. See how boundaries come up in relationships all the time? Boundaries. But then depending again on the significance of the relationship, it's okay to address it. But we have to also just, when we address these things, we have these conversations, or we start implementing some boundaries and we notice that this friend now doesn't even talk to us as much because we've implemented boundaries, or we've even had a conversation and now they start to move different and they seem to not want to be involved with us very much anymore. You have your answer of how much they value you. And that's what it comes down to. Sometimes people can make mistakes, and sometimes people can respond in situations that are, I don't even say appear selfish. It is selfish, can be extremely selfish. But then when you have a conversation or you start to move a little bit differently in an assertive way, that's a part of communication, not passive aggressive. I'm not encouraging passive aggressive communication and behavior. Absolutely not. It's not healthy. I know sometimes we could be that way. It's not healthy. So assertive communication, meaning we're still respectful, but we're addressing the issues that need to be addressed. We're not sugarcoating. We're not pretending. We're identifying the issue and we're shedding light on it. Excuse me. So being able to do that is imperative. And again, it's knowing and evaluating when it's like, you know what, I could say this, and maybe, I'm going to say this to you, and I know that you're not going to receive it, but I'm going to say it to state that it's been, so I can say it's been stated. And then we're going to move on. But let's just say maybe that's if you're on the side of the person who's the giver. If you're the taker in your relationships, I know this could be a very, very hard thing to do. But really, really think about if you're on that other side of the relationship where you're the one who gets everything. You're the one who's always being supported. You're the one who's always concerned about you. You're the one who's never really thinking about the other person. And maybe you don't even realize that that's what your relationship looks like. You know what? It's great for you to take a step back to say, you know what? Let me check on her. Let me check on him. Let me just have a conversation with them where I'm really just discussing, how's your day going? How are you doing? Just to have those type of conversations, that goes a long way. Just when someone just says, hey, I'm just texting you just to check on you. That even creates a little bit more balance. Because then at least it says, okay, granted, a lot of our interactions may seem one-sided, but at least you checking on me. At least we still have a conversation here and there. At least I know that I'm still a thought to you. You're not just waiting on me to do something or just reaching out and asking me to do something for you or be concerned about something that's concerning you. One-sided relationships. We could go on and on and on, but we're not. We're not for the sake of time. But again, I want you to really assess, are you in a one-sided relationship with anybody? And if it is one-sided, which side are you on? Are you the side that's always giving, never receiving, or are you the side that's always receiving, never giving? And then on whatever side you find yourself on, can it be resolved? Is there resolution? And then how can it be resolved? Does it need to be addressed? Is it something that you're like, you know what? I already know this. Or I guess what? I've already said something. And I'm unwilling to continue to pour, and not get anything back in return. When we're in relationships with people and we're, extending kindness and love, the goal is not to get something back. So let's be clear, it's not. However, there are relationships sometimes where we're being used or we're using someone else where we want something just for our gain. We want to be connected to you for our gain, or someone wants to be connected to you for just to gain, not to give, just to gain. So let's evaluate relationships. We're talking about relationships all month. So evaluate these potential one-sided relationships. They tend to be very overwhelming because at the end of the day, if you're on the side of, I'm always full, I've always got this, I've always got that, ask yourself, what have you done for other people lately? How have you served someone else lately? And then if you're on the end of, I'm always feeling depleted, I'm always tired, I never feel like I'm getting what I need from in my interactions with other people. And ask yourself, am I in some one-sided relationships? Do I find myself being more concerned about others all the time? And people are not showing the same concern or even a level, I don't even say the same, a level of concern for me. One-sided relationships. So that is our Wellness Wednesday for this week. We're going to cut it there because, like I said, I could go on a soapbox about this one. But I do want to just give, a couple announcements. We always do. Oops, let me take that down so we can see. Every Wednesday, Lord willing, we have our Wellness Wednesday live at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have our monthly podcast, Hashtag from a Christian, Hashtag from a Therapist with Dr. Natatu on the first Sundays of the month, live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, I did mention this before, but I want you to mark your calendars for our next podcast, episode 19, will be on Sunday, April the 7th. Sunday, April 7th, 2024, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please, please, please mark your calendars and plan to join us for our monthly podcast on Sunday, April the 7th. So really, truly still continuing to be excited about all that God is doing with Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC, locked in. We're really locking in 2024, and we are grateful. So again, that's our Wellness Wednesday for today. Our tag for Purpose Journey Counseling every time we are together. I want to encourage you to be loving, be kind, be compassionate, and be intentional towards others as well as towards you. It's not one-sided. Do these things for others, but also do the same things for you. So Lord willing, we will see you next Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next Wellness Wednesday. We do pray that you have an awesome and amazing day Wednesday. It's going to be in Cincinnati. It's going to be like 70 degrees today. So if you can get outside, get some air, some sunshine. The sun's supposed to shine today, Lord willing. Enjoy your day today and blessings and love.